So in 2 days, we're going to go into Tisha B'Av, actually tomorrow night. And usually before Tisha B'Av, we learn a little bit about the laws. I mean, not only Tisha B'Av, we always learn the laws, the halakha, before a holiday, what we need to do. So we got to know what to do tomorrow. A lot of people asking, what can I do this, can I do that? My daughter keeps asking me, can I work, can I do this, can I do that? And everything she asks me, I tell her, no, you can't do that. So, of course, her reply is like, what, I'm just going to sit all day long and do nothing? I told her, yeah, you have to mourn the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. She was like, by how? By boredom? Like just not doing anything? So, it is a very, very sad day that one needs to commemorate the destruction of the Holy Temple, and therefore we're not allowed to do a lot of things. So we're just going to go through a few of the laws that we have an idea what not to do. The reason why we're not doing a lot of things, because there's a very strong judgment on the day of Tisha B'Av, for many different reasons, and one of them is because the spies came back from Israel on Tisha B'Av. We mentioned in the previous class before I left that on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain and the tablets broke. So, I mean, we're commemorating the destruction of the walls of the Beit HaMikdash, but even if you go before that, originally on the 17th of Tammuz, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu came down and the tablets broke when he found the golden calf. So on Tisha B'Av, the spies, the Meraglim, they came back from Israel. If they would come back and say that the land is very easy to conquer and that it's a good land, then the next day, which means Yud B'Av, they will go on a journey into Israel, and on the 13th of Av, they would reach Israel. They would build the Beit HaMikdash, and on the 15th of Av, they would have already the Beit HaMikdash, and the whole story would be over. That's why many of our sages and prophets say that these days, when Mashiach is going to come, are going to turn into days of celebration. That's why the 15th day of Av, which we're going to learn about it in the next class about the parasha, which is like the Jewish Valentine's Day, of course. It's the day of love. It's a very powerful day. It's going to end up, the Gemara says that there's the best 2 days of the year for the Jews is Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av, and the 15th of Av. So the spirit of the 3 weeks is a very, very powerful time, which we spoke about it yesterday, that most people look at it as a very negative time. Rather, it's a very positive time. It's a very powerful time. Just that because bad things happen, then the midah, the attribute of judgment, is very, very strong that time. Therefore, when the sun is out and it's very hot, you don't go out because you're going to get burnt. So on that day, when the judgment is very, very severe, then we have to be careful. We have to keep it low, as they say. So we're not allowed to do a lot of things, besides the fact that, besides the sin of the spies, up until today we're paying for that sin. But after that, of course, came the destructions of both temples and many other bad things that happened on Tisha B'Av in the history. So this is not a day for fun, it's not a day for celebration yet. Bezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come tonight, or Chas v'Shalom, he will decide to come, if not tonight, then tomorrow. But then we can go to Yerushalayim and celebrate in Yerushalayim. Once Mashiach comes, we're not going to celebrate Tisha B'Av anymore. We spoke about it yesterday, is that in the first destruction of the temple, as they were leaving Yerushalayim, the sages decided that this will be a day of mourning, and that they're going to be fasting. So the next Tisha B'Av, after the destruction of the temple, they were already fasting. Now, since they only went to exile for 70 years, they only celebrated or commemorated Tisha B'Av for 70 years. That's then when they came back to Israel, they built the second temple that stood for 420 years. And for 420 years, they didn't commemorate, or one can still celebrate Tisha B'Av, because they had Beit HaMikdash. What's to celebrate? What's to commemorate? So for 420 years, when the second temple was up, there wasn't a Tisha B'Av. It was just a fine day. That's it. We got our Beit HaMikdash back. So Bezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come today, and then Tisha B'Av tomorrow will not need to celebrate it with a fast. Rather we will celebrate it with a barbecue. We'll go to the Bet HaMikdash. There's going to be some barbecues there. So we'll go just a little bit about the halachot for the next day, and Bezrat Hashem should not be using them. So, if a person needs to do Brit Milah, have a firstborn, and they should do also a Pidyon Ben. Both these events, they have to come with a meal. If somebody has to do a Brit Milah tomorrow or Pidyon Ben, they have to do it in the morning, and the meal has to be done before Chatzot, before the half of the day. It's not Chatzot, not midnight, rather the middle of the day. Also for tomorrow, in order to go through it, usually we read through the Hebrew, but we'll read some of it in the Hebrew. לא יטייל בערב תשעה באב ונוהגים שלא ללמוד אחר הצהריים כי אם בדברים שמותרים ללמוד בתשעה באב. Tomorrow in the afternoon, we are already starting to get ready for the fast, so it's very important not to do anything festive tomorrow in the afternoon, not to initiate any trips, not to do any big things. And also we are ready from the afternoon starting to reduce what we learn in regards to learning Torah. Because you will see soon that we do not learn Torah most of the day of Tisha B'Av, because Torah is a positive thing and a happy thing, which makes me happy and joyous, and there's only a few things that we can learn Torah about. But already from the afternoon, we're already starting to tune it down. So one should already start being at home, getting ready for the fast. Now, of course, we have to do a meal tomorrow in the evening that is called Suda Mafseket, exactly like we do on Yom Kippur. And there's a few dinim, a few laws when it comes to Suda Mafseket. המנהג הישר הוא לאכול קודם מנחת סעודה קבע ואחר כך מתפללים מנחה ואין אומרים תחנון. Better to do the סעודת מפסקת before מנחה, and then we go and pray מנחה, which tomorrow in מנחה we do not say תחנון. משום דתשעה באב יקרי מועד. The reason why we don't say תחנון on the eve of תשעה באב, because תשעה באב is considered a מועד, a festival, and like I said, Bezrat Hashem very soon the Mashiach is going to come. It is going to be a festival. and close to the evening, סמוך לערב, יושבין על הארץ ואין צריכים לחלות שם הנעליים. Very close to the evening, we sit on the ground. You don't have to take your shoes off yet. And also we do not sit three together, so we're not going to be obligated to do what's called a zimun. ואוכלים רק פת עם ביצה מבושלת קשה וקרה. We only eat a piece of bread and a hard-boiled egg that is cold, as you have to make it in the afternoon and it will cool down. This is not the Suda Mafseket. Suda Mafseket you would eat, let's say, around 6:30, and then you eat whatever you want. And of course it's good not to eat too much, so you're not going to be too full. It's not good to eat all sorts of types of food like onions and garlic and all sorts of food that chas v'shalom will make you a heartburn, that you will need to drink a lot after that. Better to eat a very simple meal, fish and potatoes. But after we pray mincha, and if you don't have the habit of praying mincha, then tomorrow you should make yourself the pray mincha. And right after that, we sit on the floor. We have a custom that we sit on the floor, because people that are mourning, they sit on the floor, and we eat a hard-boiled egg, a little bit of bread. We wash for bread. We eat a little bit of bread and a hard-boiled egg. Some people, what they do is they burn a little bit of ashes, burn a little bit of paper so we can have ashes, and you dip the egg in the ashes and you eat it. And it's important to eat before the sun goes down, so you'll be ready for the fast.
Which start at what time?
Depends where you live. I mean, if you live in Tzfat, but we have thousands of people on the camera that don't live in Tzfat, so every person has to look in their area where they live, and according to where you live, that's where your fast starts. here in Tzfat, I didn't look at the exact time, but probably at 7:10. We lit candles on Shabbat at 7:15. So probably the fast will start, again, don't take my word exactly, I didn't look yet, but probably here in Tzfat, since we lit candles on Shabbat at 7:10, there's a good chance the fast starts at 7:10. Now, some people have a custom to fast every Monday and Thursday. I told you a few times that when I became a Baal Tshuva, for 2 years I used to fast every Monday and Thursday for many different reasons. So a person who fasts on Monday and Thursday, many people do it. Since tomorrow is Monday, you can't fast before a fast. Then if a person does it as a neder, as a vow, has to go to Beit Din to, so to say, pause that neder and not to fast that day. Since it's not so applicable to most of you, then we're not going to go through the entire halakha. Some people, they have a yahrzeit, they fast on the yahrzeit. When somebody died, their parent, their spouse, if a person takes on themselves to fast on the yahrzeit, then also that has to be delayed to another day. Now, Ben Hashmashot is Twilight Zone. That's what I say, the Twilight Zone. We are prohibited on doing everything that we are prohibited on doing on Tisha B'Av. Meaning that already in the Twilight Zone, you take your shoes off already, and you start getting ready for the fast. Now, a lot of the things that we're going to say might be less applicable to some of you, but it is still important to know, and some of you that you might not be doing it, you might want to promote and to get your husband to do it. So when Arvit starts, it's highly recommended to go to a shul. We take our shoes, we don't wear any shoes that are made out of leather. We can wear shoes that are made out of fabric or rubber. In the shul, we take the curtain off, and it's good for any person, even at home, to light a candle that lights for 25 hours, what's called a ner zikaron, and which later on can be used at the end of on the end of the fast. And we read the Psalms of Echa in the shul. If you can't go to the shul, then read it by yourself at home. But if you can, and if you have either you don't have kids, or the kids are in an age that they can be taken to shul, then take them with you. But it's highly recommended to go to the shul and read the Psalms out of the Megillah, the scroll of Echa. יש לאדם להצטער בעניין משכבו, שאם רגיל לשכב עם שני קרים משכב אתה על אחד. We do have a custom that we make ourselves not so comfortable while we sleep. Some people have the custom that on Tisha B'Av they sleep on the floor. But if you don't want to go to such an extent, then you want to make it a little bit less comfortable when you sleep. So if you're used to sleeping on 2 pillows, then sleep on 1 pillow. If you sleep on a comfortable bed, maybe sleep on a less comfortable bed. But since we want to commemorate the day as a mourning day, then we want to take on ourselves all the customs that a mourner does. And one of the things is not to be comfortable at all. So we don't sit on chairs on Tisha B'Av. You can take like a milk crate or something small that we sit very low. This is done till the middle of the next day. We're going to go through it. But one of the things is you want to make sure that you're not so comfortable throughout the sleep. Some people have a custom that they put a rock under their pillow. And the reason why we do that is if you remember when Yaakov left his family and he went to Haran, and the story says how he laid down on the floor and he took a stone and put it under his head. That the Midrash says how the stones were fighting, and then Hashem made a miracle and the stones merged. But Yaakov Avinu, he saw in his Ruach HaKodesh he's in divine aspiration. He saw the destruction of the temple, so he put the stone under his head as to commemorate it. So we also do such a thing. We take a little stone and we put it under the pillow. Now the next few things I'm going to skip because it all has to do with men and how we do not put tefillin in the morning and how we pray in the morning. I do highly recommend, even for women, to read the Megillah of the Kinot. And it's long, can take a few hours, but we're able to read it till the middle of the day, till Chatzot. So even if you don't have the opportunity to go to shul and read it, then even at home you should read it. There's a special book that you can buy in almost all the stores, the Judaica stores, that has all these Megillot. What we read on the night, tomorrow night, which is Echa, and the next day we read what's called Kinot for Tisha B'Av. And it's kind of equivalent to reading Tehillim. So same way that on a very bad time we read Tehillim, then this Megillah has, some say has the same effect when you read these Kinot. I know a lot of people don't like reading it, they're tired, they're hungry, and it's very hard Hebrew, it's hard to read it. And most people say, okay, I'm fasting it as it is. But the same way that on Yom Kippur, it's very highly recommended to read a lot of Tehillim, so on Tisha B'Av we read these psalms. Now, a very important thing. Divrei Torah mesamchim et halev. When we learn Torah, it's making me happy. Shene'emar pikudei Hashem esharim misamchei lev, as it's quoting a verse that it says that whether I feel the happiness or not, but when I learn Torah, it makes my neshama happy. ולכן אסור בתשעה באב ללמוד תורה, כי מדברים שמעציבים את ליבו. We're not allowed to learn Torah on Tisha B'Av. The only thing that we're allowed to learn on Tisha B'Av is things that unfortunately will bring sadness to our heart. I know many people, what they do is they watch all sorts of documentaries about the Holocaust. They watch Schindler's List and all these things. Many bad things happen in the Holocaust in Tisha B'Av. But when it comes to Torah, there are a few midrashim and a few places in the Gemara that we do read because the story is very, very, very sad. One of them is we read in the book of the prophet Jeremiah, because there's a lot of bad stories that happened to our nation at the time. Some people, what they read about the book of of Job, which again, very sad things. And there's a few places in the Gemara, in the Talmud that we read, like the end of the tractate of Ta'anit, that is describing all the siege and the best sad story that happened on Yerushalayim, unfortunately. And all these things are not making me happy to hear. There's a whole place in the Gemara, in the tractate Ta'anit, that it's describing all these horror stories, what happened at the time of the siege, and after that, of course, the destruction. So this is the stuff that we're allowed to learn during Tisha B'Av. Next, and very important, afilu ubarot umenikot, even women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, af al pi shemitztarot harbe, even though it's extremely hard for them to fast, because they have to feed the child, or if they're pregnant, they're carrying a child, tzrechot lashlim ta'anit, they still have to fast. And Bezrat Hashem, the day after Tisha B'Av, my oldest son has a birthday. Because Dvorah went into the fasting, and the fasts, instead of taking an inducement or whatever the doctors always like to induce, she just started the fast, and that brought the labor. So, and she was like, what, I have to, that was a while ago, she was like, I have to fast? I said, yeah, even if you're pregnant 9 months and you overdo, you still fast. So, Baruch Hashem, she had an easy fast, because after a couple hours she started getting into labor and she had to already break the fast. But a woman that is pregnant and a woman that is breastfeeding, even though it's extremely hard for her, she still has to fast. This is one of the fasts, like Yom Kippur, that a woman is not exempt. But she has to finish the fast, unless there's a sign of danger. If a pregnant woman or a breastfeeding woman feels that she's already going into danger for whatever reason, then the fast, she has to stop the fast right away. אבל חולה, אף על פי שאין בו סכנה, יש להקל שלא להשלים את התענית. A sick person, even though there's not a life-threatening situation, he's just very sick, then he's allowed to stop the fast. And again, a headache is not very sick. And having a stomach ache, that's not considered sick. But a person that chas v'shalom has a sickness, then that person is allowed to stop the fast. But it's important to know that you're not getting a fully discount. You have to continue the fast another time. So even if you break the fast, it's not that that's it, you got your way out. You have to continue the fast in a different time. And now again, if the person is sick and they stop the fast, then they have to continue the fast. They don't have to do it a fully 24 hours. They can do segments in the fast. ויולדת לאחר 7 ימים עד 30 יום נע מדינה כחולה שאין בו סכנה. If a woman just gave birth and she's still in this between the 7 days to even 30 days after the birth, she's considered a person that is sick, that has no danger. Therefore, she can also be exempt from that fast. And again, this is not an exemption. This is just a delay for the different time to continue the fast. Some people, what they do is they will pay for the fast with segments, 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, and so forth. And some people will just redeem the fast with money and will evaluate how much will cost the food for the 24 hours, and that money will give for donation. One time we learned in the book of Tanya, in the section of Igeret HaTshuva, that the Baal Tanya is bringing all the quantities of fasts that the Arizal came and taught for all sorts of different sins. And for this sin you have to fast such and such time, for that sin you have to fast such and such time. The Arizal has in the book of the Shara Kavanot, for what sin, how many times you need to fast. So for one of the sins that particular to men, then the fast, the Arizal says you have to fast 84 times 3. So that's, and for every time, for doing the sin. And this is a pretty common sin that an average man probably sins 1,000 times minimum throughout his life. So of course that becomes very, very hard. So I gave the exact same option, and that some people, they redeem the fast with money. And they evaluate how much money they would spend a day on food, and times that, 84 times 3 times. So of course everybody was like, oh, I only eat a bagel throughout the day, $1.20, and so we don't eat for $1 a day, we eat for $10, $15, $20 a day. But in that class, all the men, might nothing, maybe an apple throughout the day, can redeem the fast for $2. So the point is that we don't want to look for ways out. We want to do it the right way. But if chas v'shalom a person is sick, or it's applicable for a woman that is very close to the time of labor, then they can delay the fast. But it's important to know that you're still obligated to pay it back. And the way to pay it back, like I said, you can fast again fully, or do it in segments, or you redeem the fast with money. If chas v'shalom a person is not fasting on Tisha B'Av for whatever of these reasons, then you can't start drinking coffee and cookies and cakes and chocolates, and you keep it to the minimum. So even if you have kids that you feed, the kids also have to be on a semi-fast. No choco, no chocolate milk, no cookies, no things like that. The minimum of the minimum, they eat a little bit of bread and some vegetables, and you have to make sure that they also understand that it's not a day to eat whatever you want. You keep it to the minimum. Next, we're not allowed to have any water touching our body. This is called sika. Sika means that it comes from the word lasuch. Rechitza asura ben chamim ben metzonen. You're not allowed to take a shower. Doesn't matter if it's hot or cold or what type of a shower. Not even going into a pool. Va'afilu leoshit etzba'o letoch mayim asur. You're not even allowed to put your finger into water or to put your finger under running water. So we're not allowed to do anything to get into any contact with water. ואינו איסור רק רחצה של תענוג, אבל שלא לתענוג מותר. This is only talking about taking a shower for the sake of pleasure. But when it comes to something that is not pleasurable, if chas v'shalom I have dirt on my hand that is very uncomfortable, I'm allowed to wash it off. But I'm not allowed to wash myself when it comes for pleasure. לכן רוחץ ידיו בשחרית ויזהר שלא יחץ רק אצבעותיו. So when I wash my hands for shacharit, I don't go start washing everything with, I just wash a little bit with water my fingers, and not more than that. ולאחר שנגוון קצת ועדיין לחוץ קצת מעבירם על עיניו. After I wiped my hands but they're still a little bit wet, then I can wipe my eyes a little bit. But I cannot wash my face in the morning. This is considered for my own pleasure because I want to freshen up. ולאחר שנגוון קצת, מעבירם על עיניו. When your hands are a little bit damp, you can still wipe your face a little bit. Now what happens if my face is extremely dirty in the morning? Then I can take a little bit of water and still wipe it off. And again, like I said, when you're a little bit dirty, you got dirty for something, this is not washing yourself for pleasure like a shower, then you're allowed to wash it a little bit off. But other than that, we try to avoid any contact that we can with water. Now what happens when a woman is cooking? She has to wash the vegetables, she has to wash her hands also, they get dirty. So when a woman is cooking for the Suda Mafseket, if you're cooking just for the birthday the next day, you're not allowed to do that. But you're allowed to cook for the meal after the fast. The right way to do it is you cook on Monday food for the meal that you eat before the fast and for the food that you eat after the fast. But if for whatever reason you have to cook and your hands get dirty or you have to wash the vegetables or whatever it is that you're washing, you're allowed to do that, but keep it to the minimum. Why? Because it's not for the sake of me taking a bath, it's just for the sake of washing the food. Now what happens if I have to go to do a mitzvah and I have to get into contact in water, for whatever that means? I mean, in the olden days, when the Shulchan Aruch was written, if it was it had things to do that has nothing to do with us. Here you go to do a mitzvah, you get into a car. In the olden days, you had to walk in the field and maybe get into contact with a river or a little pond that you had to cross. Then for going for a mitzvah, we're allowed to get wet. Meaning that even in our days, if you come across a situation that you have to do a certain mitzvah, and that will cause you to get wet, then you're allowed to do that. But other than that, we need to avoid getting any type of contact with water. Excuse me? Because water, we don't even realize that, but in the olden days, water was a very rare thing. Now, I want to take a shower, I can take 3 showers a day. A few hundred years ago, to take a shower was a big deal. You had to pump the water and boil it so it will be warm. So water is considered a pleasure, something that is spoiling me. Even today, I mean, even though it's very, very accessible, you know, a person who's mourning and sits Shiva is not allowed to shower for the whole week because showering makes me comfortable, makes me clean. So we therefore, while we mourn, we don't pleasure ourselves with showers and we don't spoil ourselves with washing myself and cleaning myself. And therefore, both on Yom Kippur, Tisha B'Av, and many times, like a person is mourning, we don't come into contact with water. The spiritual, the Kabbalistic explanation from that, everything that we do in the physical world, there's also a very mystical spiritual explanation. So the water comes from the midah of chesed, of kindness, and on these specific days, the midah of gvura is empowered, and we don't have the ability, like an angel or a big tzaddik, to create the unity between the gvura and the chesed. Therefore, when there's too much gvura, I can't come with a little bit of chesed that will cause a negative reaction. Therefore, I have to separate them. The one that causes peace between the gvura and the chesed is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. As we say a certain blessing, Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, making peace in the heavens, it's only Hashem. Why? Who's making peace and why? Because Gabriel, the angel of fire, that comes from the side of Gvura, is against the angel of Michael, who comes from the side of Chesed, who's the minister, the angel of water, and water and fire cannot coexist. So when Hashem puts them together, He makes peace in the heavens. He takes the angel of fire and the angel of water, Michael and Gabriel. One comes from the side of Gvura, one comes from the side of Chesed, and He makes peace between them. Peace meaning that the water and the fire can coexist. That's why we see in the plague of the hail in Egypt, there was a miracle, because the hail came down from the heavens and it was a fiery hail. It was fire in the hail. So since in these days this attribute of Gvura is very, very powerful, you bring a little bit of chesed, it's not going to balance it, rather it's going to create a damage. So therefore, we try to avoid any contact with water on that day not to arouse even more judgment against us. Chas v'shalom. So everything has a more deeper meaning why we do that. Where were we? Okay, now what happens? What happens for a woman that her night of her mikveh falls on Tisha B'Av? She has to wash herself, of course. If it falls on the night of tomorrow night, then the day has to be pushed for the next day, for the Yud B'Av. If the day of the mikveh falls on Yud B'Av, she can prepare herself before, then she has to push everything for after the fast. And then, of course, like on Shabbat, if the day of the mikveh falls on Shabbat, then the vilah, the dipping, is going already into Shabbat. Same thing here. Then the entire preparation for the mikveh has to be done after Tisha B'Av. Next, we're not allowed to wear shoes that are made out of leather. אבל של בגד וכדומה אין מחופה בשוליים באור מותר. We're allowed to wear anything that is made out of rubber or fabric or many other things that are not leather. If it's fake leather, we're still allowed to wear it. Some people don't wear it because it looks like leather and then it makes them look like they're still wearing the leather shoes. Some people go out of their way to wear slippers or flip-flops or whatever you call it to show that, yeah, I'm not wearing leather shoes. This is another sign of mourning. And even though in some places it might be embarrassing, in Israel or in religious communities throughout the world, it's not a big deal that everybody's wearing slippers. When I lived in New York, and comes Tisha B'Av, you see people walking with suits and with slippers. So I can't even imagine what the Gentiles think when they look at us. They're like, what's going on with these guys? And you look at it, they're going with suits and they're wearing slippers. So I lived in New York next to many, many non-Jews, and they always had these interesting questions. So one of the funny questions was, if you ever notice how the bag of the tefillin looks like, and all the man is going with his bag, and it's like a puffy bag. So one time I met a non-Jew, and he asked me, what are you doing in that big place of worship? Meaning the synagogue. I told him we pray. He's like, I thought you rest there. And I was like, why do you think we rest? He's like, because you're all carrying pillows. So it's just funny sometimes to see how people look at what we do and why. So a lot of people used to ask me, why Why on this day you're wearing slippers? So some people find it pretty embarrassing to walk with slippers or with flip-flops, so there are many shoes that are made out of fabric that are not so embarrassing to wear in the streets. In our days, of course, it's much, much easier. In the olden days, it would be very hard. All the shoes were from leather. Now, most of the shoes that we wear are not from leather, so there shouldn't be a problem to wear that. For any married couple, all the laws that we follow at the time when the woman is through her cycle, we follow the exact same laws of the day of Tisha B'Av. This is called all the laws of separation, meaning that we sleep separately, not touching each other, and needless to say, not having marital relations. So all the laws we follow on the nights of when the woman is impure through her cycle, we do the exact same thing throughout the time of Tisha B'Av. Next, we have a custom that we don't greet each other on Tisha B'Av, meaning that when you meet somebody on the street, you don't say, "Hey, how are you? I didn't see you for 3 days." We don't greet each other with good morning, good evening, and good afternoon and all that stuff. Rather, it's enough a little nod with the head and to continue moving. Now, if you meet somebody that is not observant or a non-Jew or somebody that will not understand why you're ignoring him, it's fine to say in a soft way something, and you can also explain that person, it's a Tisha B'Av today, so excuse me for not asking you how are you and how you're doing. Needless to say, it's not the right day to send presents to people and greetings and blessings and stuff like that, even if it falls on their birthday, then you can do that the day before. Another important thing, this is not a day for traveling. It's a day that we stay at home. If you don't go to the synagogue, then stay around the house. If you do have the option, you go to the synagogue, but it's not a day for traveling, and definitely not a day for watching movies and reading happy things and newspapers. It's the day that, like my daughter told me, can I do this? No. Can I do this? No. It's her first year that she's fasting. She was bat mitzvah a few months ago, so now she has to fast. That's it. No more games. So she asked me, can I do this? And everything she asked me if she can do it, I told her no. So she was like, I'm going to be very bored. I told her, what do you think? This is your birthday? It's a day of mourning. So it's not a day to walk around, not a day to go shopping, not a day to do anything that is fun for us. So I told my daughter, yes, it's not the day to do fun. So sit at home and be bored and think about the Beit HaMikdash. So it's important that we don't do that. Some people even have the custom that they don't smoke on Tisha B'Av because, again, they get some type of pleasure from smoking. The reality is that anything that causes for us pleasure that we do, it arouses judgments against us. Unfortunately, it's a very, very bad day. The Midat Adin, the attribute of judgment, is very powerful. So we don't want to arouse any more judgment. Also, many people, they have the custom of not even to work that day. They'll take a day off. And in the evening, there's not much of an issue. But during the day, then a lot of people, they take a custom not to work that day, not to do anything that day. And even things that are simple, and it sounds maybe ridiculous to mention, but it's not a day also to hang out on Facebook and Schmacebook and all these spaces that it's you might stumble across all sorts of funny posts and funny videos and start all sorts of conversations. Really, it's a day that you want to sit and mourn the destruction of the temple. Now, a lot of people find it hard to mourn the destruction of a building. They say it's a piece of real estate, which, first of all, it's not a piece of real estate. It's our holy temple. But really, the mourning is not only for the destruction of the building, rather the destruction of the temple that's in me. I'm also suffering some type of a spiritual destruction. I'm not in the state of redemption. I'm in the state of exile. I have a terrible yetzer hara. I have a lot of te'avot and the forbidden desires. I'm going through a lot of hardship. Every person now is going through some type of hardship. And that's the day to reflect and say, wait a minute, I'm in exile myself. What am I doing? What can I do to better myself? So we're going to talk, B'ezrat Hashem, in the next class, what do I need to focus on this day? But again, this is a day that I need to reflect very deep inside my soul, why am I still in exile? And not necessarily the destruction of a building, rather of the destruction of my structure inside my body and my soul. More. Some people have the custom not to sit on chairs on Tisha B'Av, because mourners in the time of the Shiva, they don't sit on chairs. They sit on either on a very low bench or something that is very low to signify that we're mourning. And you don't sit on anything comfortable. On a regular chair, some people turn the chairs upside down and they sit on the bottom of the chair. But either way, we try to avoid being comfortable throughout the night and the beginning of the day, but after Chatzot. Chatzot means the middle of the day. It's not the Chatzot calls midnight, but it's midday. It's usually after 12 o'clock. It's not exactly 12 o'clock, depending when the sun goes down. It usually will be 12:30 or 1. All these things that we're very strict with, there we go till midday tomorrow. So not sitting on chairs and not sitting in a comfortable way, that can be stopped sometime tomorrow in the afternoon. If you have to prepare food for the Suda Mafseket, better not to do it in the morning, rather to do it as close as possible to the end of the fast. And better, like I said, to prepare it on Monday. And that way you don't have to prepare anything during Tisha B'Av, and just the smells. Sometimes people start preparing in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av. You can go crazy from just the smell. Next, even though neither one of you puts tefillin on, but we do have a lot of followers and viewers that are men, we only put tefillin in mincha. We don't put tefillin in the morning. We pray shacharit. The shacharit that we pray is a little bit different. We pray shacharit early, and then we read the kinot as much as we can till chatzot. After chatzot you can't read the kinot anymore. Only in the afternoon when we pray mincha, we already put a talis on, we put tefillin on, and only at that time we're continuing what we didn't do during shacharit. Excuse me? No, we do not have meat till the afternoon of the Yud B'Av. I was about to get to that very soon, but everything that we're prohibited in doing in the beginning of Tisha B'Av, after Chatzot, we're already more lenient, meaning also with learning Torah and many other things. Better to keep it to the late afternoon. That's when we put tefillin on, we cover ourselves with a talit. That's when we're allowed to already start learning Torah. So when people have a certain order that they do every day, by learning a portion of the weekly parsha, reading a portion of Tehillim, whatever you have a custom to do, then tomorrow you want to do it, make sure that you're doing it early, before the fast, and on the day of the fast, then you do it in the morning, then you push it and you do it already towards the evening. Whatever daily seder that you have. Some people have a seder that they read many things. They do a portion of Rambam, portion of Bitanya, whatever it is that they learn. Better that to push that to the end of the day. Now, since the beginning of the destruction was on Tisha B'Av, but the end of the destruction was B'Yud B'Av, the 10th of Av, we still keep some of the laws of mourning to the next day. So you asked about meat, about in the meal that we eat after Tisha B'Av. We do not eat meat till the next day in the afternoon, meaning till Yud B'Av in the afternoon. We still don't eat meat, we don't drink wine, we don't take haircuts till the next day. So you gotta keep a few of the laws of the morning still till the midday of the 10th of Av. Which for your question is no, we don't eat meat till the next day, and same with wine, and same with many other things. Excuse me? Traveling you can already do. But the things we're particularly not doing is eating meat, drinking wine, taking haircuts, and also, excuse me? Showers? No, showers you can take right away. Another thing that we try not to do the night is also for man and woman to have marital relations also on that night, unless it's the night of the mikveh. Other than that, better not to. And if you can avoid still traveling that night, then better to do the traveling the next day. If you can't, you have to drive for a job or something important, then okay. But other than that, we still want to keep it to the minimum. Doesn't mean that the fast ends and we start opening champagne bottles and dancing. Music you can still hear. Again, some people have the custom that till midday on the next day of the 10th of Av, you don't do anything. You keep it to the minimum. They'll take a shower, but still not listen to music and really celebrate. Like I mentioned, my son's birthday is the 10th of Av, so he's always, he wants to celebrate right away. And he was upset that he can't open his presents yet. I came now from the trip with a suitcase full of presents, and he's like a shark going around the suitcase. He goes next to the suitcase like... So it's funny to see him walking around the suitcase, sniffing, what did you bring? So he can't open his presents on... So, I mean, we were really, really lenient with him. We gave him one present because his Yetzer Hara would drive him nuts. So we gave him one thing so he would be happy. But yeah, we only celebrate the next day on the 10th of Av after midday. So we still can't celebrate. So we want to keep it to the minimum. And really we want to just focus on the fact that this is not a day to do anything fun, happy, and for ourselves. It's a day to really reflect and to commemorate the destruction and to think where I can get better and to focus on something else but me. That's why a lot of the laws that I'm not allowed to do on Tisha B'Av, it's things that have to do with me. When I don't take a shower, it's not comfortable. I'm sticky, I don't smell so good, I want to take a shower before going to bed. This is not to torture me, it's rather for me to take 24 hours a day throughout the year to stop thinking of myself and to think of somebody else. And usually we are very selfish, we only think about ourselves, and the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed from Sinat Chinam, from hate for no reason. Because when will I hate somebody for no reason? When I think about myself too much. So once a year, Hashem says, stop thinking about yourself for 24 hours, think about somebody else. So you'll be uncomfortable for 24 hours. It's not the end of the world. So I want to follow anything that will cause me to be comfortable. So you can use your own imagination. And to take for one day, so I'm not going to be so comfortable. One day I'm not going to think about myself. This will arouse in me the energy and the power that throughout the year I'll have a little bit of more sensitivity to think less about myself and more to think about somebody else, which ultimately would bring me to have an unconditional love to any human being. That is what's going to bring us the redemption back. So you use your own imagination. Where can I less think of myself to make my day a little bit less comfortable, which will arouse in me the motion of, okay, it's time to think about somebody else, and this is what's going to bring to us the redemption. So I wish you a very easy fast. Needless to say, we're not going to have classes here on Tuesday. Classes will return on Thursday. B'ezrat Hashem, we should pray hard that Mashiach will come tonight and we don't have to fast and we can take showers and we can travel to Yerushalayim and see the Beit HaMikdash. We have a very, very easy fast.